Well, it's my pleasure to sit here and have a cup of coffee with, in my opinion, the best real estate agent in all of Sacramento. He's worked with RE/MAX Gold for how many years, Brian?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've worked with RE/MAX for 31 years. Yeah. So a long, long time.
Yeah, and been a real estate agent for how long?
33 years.
33 total.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Brian Kassis, my name is Joseph Eschleman with Tower Point Wealth, and Brian and I are going to share a conversation today about the current and future status of this ridiculously hot real estate market. So again, Brian, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And it's certainly been a fun topic. I know here at Tower Point Wealth, we've been talking with a lot of clients about during our wealth management planning with them.
Right.
And you know, it seems like it's even more than a reset of 05 and 06. But I'm curious what your perspective is as far as, you know, what the market is right now, and you know how that perhaps does compare to 2005, 2006.
Yeah, you know, it's similar in some ways, and of course different in other ways. Right now, one of the big things is that there's no inventory, so that makes it difficult for a buyer.
That's different than what it was?
There was more inventory, but there was still huge multiple offers, just like there are today. But right now, we have very constrained inventory, much more than even back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a seller, it's a great time, you know, to potentially put your house on the market. I mean, if it's something that you want to do.
Sure.
As a buyer, it's just a little more difficult because of the lack of inventory and the number of buyers.
Oh yeah, you're competing against, I mean, you know, we all know the stories with the multiple offers. I mean, you cited an example 10 minutes ago as we were talking, getting things set up here. How many offers came in on the place you were talking about?
Oh my gosh, 12 in 4 days. And, you know, I could have taken 20, but the phone calls that come in and say, hey, we can only go to X amount of dollars. I said, why should you waste your time?
Right.
You know,
Right.
Don't waste your time. Just don't write it.
I mean, great example of just how crazy demand is right now.
It is.
And I guess, you know, obviously attribute that somewhat to, you know, supply, which makes sense.
Certainly.
You know, how much do low interest rates play a part in what's going on, I guess, nationally as well as in Sacramento?
Interest rates are amazing.
Yeah.
They're a little bit on the upswing right now, but still, I mean, you can get sub 3% interest rates, 3% and below. I mean, those numbers are crazy.
Cheap money.
Cheap money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cheap money, and it certainly has a big effect on the, you know, the buyers and the ability to purchase something.
Sure.
So that's a good thing. As interest rates go up, I mean, that'll affect people's purchasing power.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you can't borrow as much, or you can't handle a monthly payment that's a couple $100 higher than where it might be today for the same dollar amount, then obviously makes a big difference.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Help us to understand, in your opinion, with where the real estate market has been. You know, obviously nobody has a crystal ball, and it's difficult to say, you know, when this thing is going to end. But if you had to pinpoint, Brian, a potential catalyst that could cause, I won't use the word reversal, but could cause a slowing of the market. I don't know if we're necessarily rooting for that, but I think, you know, all good things come to an end at some point.
Sure, absolutely.
What are you worried about in terms of the market potentially turning?
I think the biggest thing right now would be interest rates.
Okay.
Certainly, interest rates as they go up, it does affect the people's ability to buy houses. So that's going to have a big effect, of course. The other thing, I mean, we don't know what would happen, you know, in the other downturns. I mean, we've had catastrophic events. You know, I mean, like I was in it in 1990, and you know they dropped a bomb. Right. We had Desert Storm, and it was like you had this huge uprising. No one predicted it. So it could be, you know, September 11th again or something like that. So you never know what it's going to be.
Right.
And so you just have to be able to adjust to it. Like with me, you just have to be able to adjust with it.
Yeah. Well, it's true of investing in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds as well as real estate.
Absolutely.
The general trend is upwards, and certainly it has been that way for the past few years. And everyone anticipated the pandemic would throw a huge wrench into things, and it did, but just for a couple of months, it seems, at least in our world. And,
right.
I think with real estate as well. I don't know, what effect you've seen with what's happened with the pandemic, but people seem to be a lot more transitory and migratory now, which I would imagine it helps with demand also.
Yeah, the pandemic really had a big effect on it in terms of, at the beginning, of course, it was like, what are we going to do?
Right.
Just like anything else, something happens
like fear factor.
Yeah, fear factor. Something happens like that, and you don't know what to do. Even as a real estate agent, like I didn't know what am I going to do. Fortunately, I had, for me, I have such a long history in this business that I had things that I could still do and people that I could still work with, and
sure. Deep bench.
Yeah, exactly. So that's helpful for me, but it was very interesting to see as we got into a few months. March, April, May. Those months were kind of tough, leaner months, and then as the summer came, people were figuring out that they can work from home.
Right.
And
these trends started to take hold.
Absolutely, trends started to take hold. I need more space.
Yeah.
This
could last for a while, and
no question. I had a perfect example of a client that had 1,100 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, husband and wife, 3 kids, and the wife worked for PG&E. She had to work at home from a little corner in their kitchen.
Sounds cozy to begin with.
It's cozy to begin with, yeah. And on top of that, they had a full-time nanny that came in because someone had to watch the kids while we're at work.
Right.
So,
right.
they went out, and fortunately they were financially able to. They went out and bought a house in advance of selling their house. Mm-hmm. But they moved from 1,100 square foot house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, to a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath, like 2,600 square foot house. And that's a whole big difference.
Yeah, it's a new world.
It's a new world. So they were able to do that because of the interest rates.
Sure.
And because of their stability, and they can work from home and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but we see that kind of thing happening all the time, and people are moving in from the Bay.
Yeah,
I mean,
just gonna say
that's a huge thing in Sacramento real estate.
They sell a house out there for double the price and can get the same, if not more, here for still, even with how hot the market's been and prices increasing.
Right.
Much more reasonable, obviously, than the Bay Area. Is that something that has been exacerbated by the work from home model, or do people actually find Sacramento to be a pretty attractive destination? There used to be the impression that why would I want to come to Sacramento? And now it seems like people are very open to it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people like living in a space like this, or Sacramento, a little more suburban.
Right.
They have a little more room to stretch their arms, and for the kids to get out and run and play and that kind of thing. We have one of the Tower Point wealth people that came from Chicago, one of our clients that became one of my clients, and they came from a little Chicago condominium, and they came and they landed in El Dorado Hills, and
wow.
It's a huge thing. It's like, what a difference. Now they have the sunshine, they have a pool, they've got all this stuff that they just...
As we sit here in 70-degree weather on March 2nd.
I know, it's just absolutely beautiful. So we have some good things that we have here in Sacramento. We're real lucky.
Yeah. And I think the trends also, too, with what's happened in the pandemic and some of the unfortunate situations with social unrest in a lot of the large cities. I don't know, not so much in San Francisco as some of the other ones, but there does seem to be a general migration out of these urban areas. And
there is.
I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Sacramento seems like just a logical landing spot. If you can plant your flag here after building a lot of equity in the Bay Area, it makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a great city that's actually being built up. Things are coming in, and we got the Kings, we got a lot of things are here. River Cats. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have, and people really enjoy. And And then you got the outdoor space too.
Yeah.
And we're close to the bay. We're close to every place.
Yeah, 2 hours, so we can be wherever we want to be.
Yeah, let's go skiing. It's 2 hours away.
Yep.
Not hard.
Yep. Good centralized location.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you understanding prices are high? I think it's fair to say to some degree. Obviously, when demand outstrips supply. Where, if you had to plant your flag somewhere, let's say either from a person who wants to upgrade or a person, let's say, who wants to invest in investment property, a rental, let's say, where are some of the areas that you would say are decent value as compared to the places or areas that are, in your opinion, way overpriced?
Right.
I'm curious, just your general, obviously it can change quickly, but your general thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's of course a difficult question, right? Yeah. Because all different areas are so different within Sacramento proper. But when you look at, or the county, you look at different areas here and you say, hey, really the closer we get into the city core,
right,
the more expensive it is.
Sure.
The Land Park, the Curtis Park, East Sacramento. These are the areas that I will say this, that throughout my 33-year stint in this real estate business, we've seen those areas always seem to hold the most value for the longest time.
That's what we've seen,
okay?
Right? Yeah.
We have seen that. So, however, they're right now they're the most expensive. You're paying
sure
$600 a square foot for property.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more.
Sure.
So it's very expensive in the city core, but people like it.
Yeah, well,
so
there's a demand for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
There is a demand for a reason, but kind of the further that you get out, generally I would say, you have a little more opportunity. Maybe Carmichael, Citrus Heights has some great values. Elk Grove, Natomas. So it is real interesting when you're in these different areas and you see how many people are competing in offers and that sort of thing. And there's diversity. So, some places it's really hard to get your foot in the door, and in other places it's a little bit easier.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
It is.
Well, I think too, at least from Sacramento, certain areas that maybe in the past people, I don't want to say turn their noses up, but may not find as attractive, are starting to realize that, with a lot of the improvements and development, these areas that may not have been as popular or in demand a few years ago, all of a sudden they're becoming more attractive, not just from a pricing standpoint, but it's a lot nicer in a lot of these areas than it was previously.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. There's so many upgrades throughout the whole county, and and then our surrounding counties, Placer and Yolo and
right.
El Dorado.
We got West Sac right across the river here.
Absolutely. West Sac's, wow, it's really gone crazy, and they've done a good job. They've done a good job planning it, and people really seem to like West Sac.
Why aren't they building more houses in general with this, dichotomy between supply and demand? Are they just not able to find the land or permits or what is it?
Honest. I'm not a building guy, but okay. I would say in general that certainly land is a lot more expensive.
Sure.
Everything is right now. Try to go buy a building product. It's difficult to get stuff.
Right.
It's like 20% higher than it was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So try to find we do some remodels now and again, and you try to find a appliance out there. You can't necessarily find the appliance you want to get.
Yeah.
So,
or 6, 8, 10 weeks out.
Yeah. It makes it more difficult. So. It's on a ship someplace,
right.
It hasn't been able to make it over here.
That's the pandemic for you as well, too.
Absolutely.
Obviously, supply chains have been disrupted. And
no
it's
question.
Just a lot more challenging to get those things in here as well.
And I think that the builders, after the 2005, 2006 up run, they really have taken a little bit different step, and they build things really slowly. In terms of, they don't build 30 houses at a time.
Okay.
They might release 4, 5, 6, 10, and they build those.
Just once bit, twice shy, or just a different
yeah,
approach?
I think that's a little bit of it, certainly. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to get people to work.
Yeah.
There's not enough builders, there's not enough contractors.
Yeah.
There just aren't.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know we had that big windstorm a week and a half ago, and Try to find somebody to rebuild a fence. I mean,
try to find a fence.
Looking out.
The fence builder
4 or 5 weeks out as well. So
I gave a client my fence builder the other day, and he called him up and he says they're not even taking any new projects.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Again, testimony to, again, some things in life and simple economics, the supply and demand story
absolutely
certainly bears itself out here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap things up from more of an investment standpoint in real estate, I know, if I may, cite yourself as an example with recently buying and improving an investment property. I thought it was interesting, and I know your property, which is wonderful. We've actually stayed in it ourselves, a little bit of a plug for it, called the Pelican Hill House in Jenner. I'm curious what made you decide to want to do that, understanding the market that we're in real estate-wise. What should investors be optimistic about, and what risks or dangers should they be aware of?
Sure. Well, that particular property was just one of these properties that we came upon that was unique, and I just felt, well, my daughter and my wife said we really need to go look at this, and honestly, it made sense, and quite frankly, it's when you can buy something for a reasonable price that looks at a river dumping into an ocean.
Yeah.
It was kind of a no-brainer. It's just like they just don't have that many places that they're allowing things to be built any longer.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I thought, just for a family sort of a thing.
Location.
Totally location.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, it worked out for us. And of course, we had to do a lot of work to that house too. But that's the way it works.
Do you have clients in Sacramento that are investors, and what are they doing? What are they thinking about?
We do have clients that are investors. A lot of the investors now are trying to flip homes.
Okay.
I mean, that's a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a very competitive market. Very competitive.
So not unlike 05 and 06 in that regard, at least.
Right. Yeah. And so it seems like all the littler ones, the less expensive ones, are very difficult to come upon. But you can get some more in the mid-level, 400,000-ish, that might have some opportunity to be a $600,000 home. Mm-hmm. So there's a little more risk.
Sure.
Okay.
More money you're putting out.
Absolutely. But I do think that there's opportunity there. There's also, in terms of just, if you think about moving your money from one investment to another, this is not a bad time to do that either, because interest rates are so good. So if you had a single family home that was a rental and you want to do a 1031 tax-free exchange and move it into a duplex, triplex, fourplex, you have the opportunity to take all that cash, all that equity, move it to the next property, and be invested in a much less high interest rate note. So your cash flow can be much better.
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately. And then, one of the positives about owning 2, 3, or 4 units, and I say that because those are the more easy loans to get. Once you go over 4 units, then you're getting a commercial sort of a loan. Yeah. But up to 4 units, if you think about it, if one goes vacant, you got 3 other that are servicing your mortgage.
Diversification.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Are you worried the Biden administration may do away with 1031s, or is that moved down the list in terms of what you've heard? We just have heard talk about the possibility in order to raise tax revenue.
Boy, I hope not. I certainly hope not.
Yeah, we do too. I mean, it's the number of 1031s. It's a wonderful opportunity.
It is. The 1031 is a really nice opportunity. Yeah. I hadn't heard that, but
we've heard a lot of potential changes. And
I've heard potential changes for sure.
How much that actually happens or doesn't with having to get through Congress is another story.
I think there's a lot of strong lobbying in the real estate business.
Yeah, well, that would certainly be painful if that code of the IRS went away. So
yeah, I think so too. Good, for sure.
Well, hey, Brian, I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to sit here and riff about what's going on in real estate and here in Sacramento. Obviously, I mean, the market continues to be amazing. We probably won't be this way forever, but to gain your perspective is very, very useful. So we appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate Tower Point Wealth.
Yeah.
And our relationship for so many years.
You bet.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate our friendship and the partnership as well, too, Brian.
Absolutely.
All right.
Great. Thank you.